Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Now, unless the pot is dead straight, I play side spin on every shot that I take in snooker. And in this video I'm going to answer the question, should you be doing that as well? So I'm going to use this routine here to show you how I go about making a break. And you'll see that even when the ball is not hitting a cushion, I would be using side spin. So I'm playing this one as a stunny screw, touch of left hand side. So yeah, touch of left hand side. Now this one here, I'm sending the white off the cushion and the other side. So top spin, touch of left hand side. Obviously the ball is hitting a cushion that time, so it does have an effect when it's coming off the cushion. Let's just go through these other ones. Okay, so this is another good example. So I'm playing a little stun over, touch of right hand side, even though the ball isn't going to hit a cushion. Okay, let's play, I'll play the pink here. So I'm playing a little stunny screw, touch of left hand side, even though the ball isn't hitting the cushion. So yeah, so this will just give you a good idea of when I'm using these bits aside. Let's run round here. So I'm potting this one. Now this one's just off straight, so I'm not trying to play with any side here, just running it in gently. Yeah, just float it in. And then I'm only going to take the pink here just because, yeah, just for ease. So this one, again, top and a little bit of, tiny bit of left-hand side. So just a tiny bit. So the ball was hitting a cushion that time, but yeah, you can see when I'm using that side. And now I'm playing a screw back with a touch of right-hand side. So yeah, a little tiny screw back. And then obviously the black, just roll the black in. So of course you can see that I'm using side there on shots even when the cue ball isn't hitting a cushion. And the big question here is should you be trying to do that with your game? So there's two main reasons why a player would end up playing little bits of side spin all the time, even when the ball doesn't hit a cushion. The first one is, let's say that instead of trying to be perfect and hit absolutely bang in the centre of this sphere, which people say, is very, very difficult to do, what players are actually doing is they're deliberately allowing themselves to say, well, I'll play a bit of the, what we call helping side, and then it means that I'm already accounting for the fact that I've got that little bit of side on there. So my brain already knows that, for a given example, I might be playing a bit of left-hand side. So because my brain has already factored in the left-hand side, it means that even if I go right back to the middle maybe, I'll still pot the ball, I should still be all right. The second big reason is that it speeds the cue ball up a little bit. So it doesn't change its direction. That effect is very, very, very small and subtle. But it helps the cue ball along its way. It might speed it up a little bit. So those are the two big reasons why you're doing it. Like I say, a big one is because instead of trying to be millimetre perfect and just strike in the centre of the cue ball all the time, if you just allow for the fact that you've got that bit of help inside, there's an argument that that actually makes it better instead of trying to be like a laser precision robot. So I'm just going to take this shot here just to show you when I would use that little bit of side. So I'm going to pop this red and I want the white to stun over along this line so that I can get down towards the black. Now, the angle that the cue ball comes off this red is purely controlled by the vertical line on the cue ball. Nothing to do with left or right. It will change direction off the red by the vertical line. So if I just play this just at the stun position, it should go over and onto that black nicely. So yeah, it did that. Now, I would actually prefer to play that with a little touch of left-hand side because then my brain knows it's got that little flick of side on and it's going to speed the cue ball up a little bit, but ultimately means I don't have to hit perfectly in the centre of the ball. So yeah, it's not changing the angle. The side isn't doing anything because it's not hitting the cushion, but it's just allowing me to speed the cue ball up a little bit, and my brain has factored in using that helping side. So how do you decide whether you should be doing that as a player? So I've got three things to test yourself and see whether you could start implementing using little bits of side all the time. The first one is this little 4 red lineup. So I'm going to speed this up for the sake of time. I've got 5 attempts to try and clear these 4 reds with colours. Okay, so that's the first thing. Can you, in 5 attempts, you haven't got to be able to do it first go, within 5 attempts, can you pot 4 reds and 4 colours? The next one is clearing the colours from their spots. If you give yourself 5 attempts, can you clear the colours from their spots? And the last thing to do is this medium range straight red. You've got to take 5 shots, and can you get 4 out of the 5 successfully? So if you could do those things successfully, I would say you've got a good enough of a foundation to start playing around with using bits aside to help you take your game to another level and just open up lots of different opportunities in terms of break building. Unless you can do those things, I would say I would stay away from playing side, try to stick to just the vertical up and down and build a nice foundation. The analogy I always use for this is I play the guitar, and I've done that since I was very young. And when I was learning to get good on the guitar, you're learning to just play chords at first. So you're just strumming basically, and you're trying to put your fingers into these different positions. Once you can do that and you've got a very good foundation, you can then start picking different strings. So you can say, okay, I'll make it sound a bit more interesting by strumming in a different way or picking an individual string. You can then even add some more complexity again by saying, okay, I'll put my fingers onto the strings in a different order and at different times and press a string as I'm starting to play the chord, and it just makes everything sound more interesting. Until you've got that foundation of just being able to do it and play those chords properly, I would never advise anybody to start trying to do any of the other stuff. There's too many things for your brain to think about. So at first, you've got to try and get a good foundation, simplify things so that you're building up some good muscle memory and some good repetition. If you're already at the stage where you can do those things I just asked in this video, then yes, I would say you can mess around with side. If you can't do those things, I would steer clear of that until you've built up some nice foundation and some nice muscle memory. So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples here now of where some players do play side, but you absolutely don't need to. So this black is a great one. I'm trying to pop the black and just stun the cue ball up onto these 2 reds. Now, lots of players may play this with a little bit of right side to help the cue ball along its way, but you absolutely don't need to do that. You can just play the vertical line, just get the right stun position, and you'll send the cue ball wide enough. So I'm not playing any side here, I'm just using stun, so just the vertical line, and that's fine to get me to bounce up onto those reds. Let's look at another example where you don't have to play side. Now another example, I'm going to pop this red and screw onto the blue here. Now absolutely, you can do this using no side, and this is the way I used to do it, and I managed to make 100 break before I worried about adding any of this side complexity to things. So I can just screw onto this blue. It's just the vertical height on the cue ball controlling where the cue ball goes. These days, I do add a touch of right helping side just to help the cue ball along and speed it up, but you absolutely don't need to. This last shot here is a great example of when side spin is most useful and beneficial, and that is when the cue ball is going to hit a cushion. Now, because there's a big surface area, a lot of contact between the ball and the cushion, that side spin will really grip and it will really take effect. So on this shot here, I'm going to play a stun screw into the cushion with right hand side, which is going to help the ball flick wide and up to the correct side of the blue. So very beneficial here because yeah, when the white hits that cushion, it's going to have a big effect. So I've got to get into it, bit of right, it's going to have a big effect. That nice bit of right hand side just helped at the end there to just flick me the correct side of the blue. So when you're using a cushion, it does have more of an impact. So one little thing to summarise here is that there are some shots that the best way to play is to use side. There are shots where you might be potting the black coming off the cushion, and the best way to do it is to use side. So I would always teach that this is the right thing to do. But in terms of trying to play side on absolutely everything, I never set out to do that. I built up a foundation. I've been able to pop balls nicely. I could string together lots of good breaks. I was making regular 40s and 50s. And then in the end, I found myself using side to help the potting, and it just started to feel more comfortable. But I did that later on. So there are some key shots where use it because it's just the best way of playing that shot, but don't feel like you've got to be using it all of the time. Get a nice foundation. If you can do the little challenges that I set out in this video, maybe it's something that you could start to explore. So as always, everybody, I really hope you found this video useful. Like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff. For anyone that's interested in any personal one-to-one coaching sessions, I'm working on this very table all the time, helping players to improve their game. All my details are in the description box below, so if you have a look there, contact me and I'd love to help you with your game. As always, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for next week's video. Cheers.